Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Hope you had a good day. So let me start with the to-do stuff. So first is Next.js documentation, and we'll plan a project. It is project on Next.js. Before this, user ORM with Next.js, and I need to check in Next.js. I have a project in my mind that to do stuff, so I'm thinking of like making that project in Next.js, and backend will be like Mongo only, but Postgres only, but I will be using Drizzle ORM and GraphQL for the querying. So let me like we'll do some research, and on Saturday stream or Sunday stream we'll start with that, or like let's see on that day what we have. So let me start with this one, like I was exporting this one before our stream. You got it. Like I'm not reading all these stuffs actually. It's too long for now. So it is part of data fetching only. What? How? I missed this one.
Let's take a look at how you can create forms and handle data mutations with the Next.js app router and server actions. Before we get started, let's see what we'll build. So I have a pretty simple form where I can, of course, add some items and delete them as well. And while it's simple, we'll talk about some of the common patterns you'll need, like loading states and error states, and also making your forms progressively enhanced. But first, before we get into the app router, let's talk about how you might have been building forms today. So on the left in my editor here, I have an example of a form in the Pages router. Now you'll notice we have the familiar form tag, an event handler for onSubmit, an input, and then some button. And you click to submit this form, it's going to call your event handler, and we have to call a separate API route. So traditionally, you would create an API route in your application, you would talk to the server securely inside of that API route, since this code and this event handler would run in the browser, and then you could get the response back and do something with it. This is how it's worked in the Pages router since Next.js was originally created, but today we're going to talk about how to handle things a bit differently with the app router. So I went ahead and created a new Next application to get started using create next app. You can do npx create next app at latest -e for an example, and then next forms, which is the name of this specific one, to get all the code that I'm showing today. So we have a basic root layout here, and then the entry point into our application, which is the page file that marks the entry route. Now inside this file, this is a server component in the app router, and it's asynchronous. So we can fetch data directly to display the to-dos on the page. So it's marked as async. We grab the to-dos back from really anywhere. In this case, we're using Purcell Postgres, but could be any service or any promise. And we take those to-dos and we map over them inside of a list. And then we also add a form for adding a to-do. So some basic scaffolding here to get our application ready. Let's take a look at adding a to-do. Okay, so let's look at the add form component. Now there's some things in here that might look familiar, and
So it fetched all the doors, the type of to dos.
to get our application ready.
Okay.
Let's take a look at adding a to-do. Okay, so let's look at the add form component. Now there's some things in here that might look familiar and also some new things. So starting on line 25, we have the form tag, but you'll notice instead of using an event handler like onSubmit, we have the action prop. Now, for those who are familiar with HTML, this might look familiar. The action prop is used for processing a form, and in traditional applications, that action is some URL that it sends the form data to. Now, this is great because it allows you to really easily send over your data, and it works if you have JavaScript disabled. But what if you want to have more than one form on a page? What if you want 10 forms on a page? Well, the cool thing about server actions is it's going to make this really easy to do, plus some other benefits that we're going to get into. So this action is actually just calling a function that runs on the server, which means there was no separate API that we had to set up. There was no API route or no route handler. We just call functions. We, of course, have an input as well, a submit button, and then also a live area that we're going to talk about a bit later around accessibility. So we have this form action that takes in a server action called create to do, and then it also has some initial
Use form
state.
state.
This initial state is just a message that we want to return from our server action, whether it was successful or it failed. But let's jump into this specific create to do. So this file contains all of the server actions for our applications, denoted by the use server directive at the top of the file. That means that everything in this file runs securely on the server and does not get sent to the client. So specifically, we have our create to do server action that takes in the previous state from our use form state. We'll get to that in a second. And then also the form data. Now let me step through each part of the server action, how it's happening, and then I'll show an example of how it works. So first, we have the form data. We're using Zod to validate the data that we're getting back is correct. So we're expecting a string and we're expecting it to be there. You could use whatever library you want here, but this is just an example showing how we're parsing that schema and then getting the data back. Then inside of a try catch, we call Vercel Postgres, or we call our Postgres database to insert this new value into our to-dos table. Then we revalidate the data. So this is going to go to the index of our application. It's going to look at the data that's been cached when we fetched it back from the server. It's going to say, you know what, we just did a data mutation, so revalidate all of the data on that path. And then it's going to return back a message saying that it successfully added to-do. Okay, so what does this look like? Well, let me go over to the browser on the right, and I'll add a new to-do that says new to-do, hit enter to submit my form, and we can see it was successfully added here. And this works whether we have JavaScript enabled or disabled, which can show how progressive enhancement works. So let me just disable JavaScript here, and I can say another one and add it, and we can see that this works as expected here. Let me just re-enable this, and this works for adding or deleting to-dos as well too. Now you might have noticed that when we submitted the to-do, it put the add button or the submit button into a loading state, as we can see here. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So back in our add form, we have this submit button component, and it's pretty simple. It reads from a new React hook called use form status. It uses the pending Boolean to determine whether it should put this button into a disabled visual state. And that's really all it takes. Now it's important to denote that there's been a couple hooks that we've been using, use form status and use form state, that are coming from React. These are new hooks that are in React Canary.
Use form status and use form.
Which is a channel that's made available for frameworks to adopt and put the latest React features out into the world that will then come to a stable general purpose React channel for the rest of other standalone React users. So I'll include a link down in the description if you want to check out how to use these hooks in standalone React on the Canary channel as well too. It's a pretty similar story for deleting to-dos as well too. So if I go back to my page, I iterate over the to-dos, and then I have a delete form for each of the individual to-dos that has the ID and the text. So if I click in here, again, it looks pretty similar. We're using form state to take in both the action that we want as well as the initial state. Again, this is just some message for either an error state or a success state. We have some hidden values in our form that allow us to pass additional data to the form data for our server action. We have a delete button. It looks very similar to before. And then we have our live area as well too. So what does this look like? Well, I'll say another one, I'll add it, and I can click delete. Now, as I mentioned before, this allows us to have n number of forms on our page. We can have a bunch of different forms. And critically, one really cool thing that Next.js and server actions provide here is the data that can be returned from the server actions can not only update the cache data, it can also provide the new UI in one network round trip. That's pretty cool. The Next.js app writer architecture considers all of these individual pieces like fetching, caching, and revalidating data and integrates them all together. So for example, when we're deleting a to-do, just like in creating, we're able to call revalidate path to update that cache data. And as you see here, we click delete, it makes a network request. But then in that network request, in that round trip, we're able to say, you know what? We made a mutation on our data and we have some new UI to show by updating what values were cached. Now you might be thinking, that's great, but what if I need more fine-grained control over revalidating the data in my application, more than just an entire path? Well, you can also use revalidate tag for specific data that you tag with a cache tag. And then if you're not using the fetch API, we are soon releasing a stable version of a way to tag any data as a function through cache that you can both set revalidation times as well as cache tags on. So stay tuned for that as well. Let's also talk about accessibility. So a couple things I want to point out in this application. One, inside of this form, we've ensured that our inputs are correctly labeled for screen readers. Two, we have this live area that announces changes in our application. So I have voiceover on right now on Mac. Let's say I want to add a new task here.
Hey, oh, hello.
And I hit,
Currently on a text field. To enter text in the field. Hum.
and I hit enter.
And tell me hello.
And we see that it says that I added this to do hello. Now that's being read out in the live area here. That's politely not interrupting my screen reader if something more urgent came in. And it's not being shown. So I've added a little CSS here, so it's only for screen readers. And you'll notice that, let me just close this for a second. If I go back to my action, the value that is returned from the server action that is used by use form state is what is put into that live area that's announced. So either we've successfully added a to do in the create case or in the delete case, or we've Let's talk about authentication in Next.js. So this is a broad topic, and there's a lot that we could talk about. So in this video, I'm going to cover showing how to do basic session authentication in Next.js without any additional libraries. And then I'll also show some other options you can use too if you don't want to roll your own auth. So let's get into it. The code for this video will be in the description, and we've also published new docs for both the pages and the app router, so go check those out. But what I've done is I've cloned this application locally, I've got it up in my editor, and we're just going to talk through some of the bits here. So first we have our root layout, which hasn't changed from setting up a Hello World Next.js app. This is just the HTML in the body of our application. And then I have our index route. So I have our page file denoting that route. This is a server component, so we've marked it as async, and we're awaiting getting the session for our application. If there's a user, we're going to print out information about the user here. Otherwise, we're just going to say it's null. And then we have two different forms here. We have one form that allows the user to log in, and it calls the server action, it calls this login function, and then redirects back. And then we also have the same thing basically to log out. So this is just a basic scaffolding of login, logout. There's, of course, a lot more that we can do here, but the real meat of understanding the basics of authentication is going to be in the login and logout functions. So we've moved all of this library, everything related to authentication, into this one lib.ts file. Let's start with login. So the login function that gets called over here, I'll just type in lee@vercel.com, hit enter to submit our form, and we see this information that is logged out in the right. So this login function is called. It takes in the form data. I can read information from the form, like email. I can put some other additional information here on the user object. In your application, this is where you would probably talk to a database and look information about the user. And once we get that information back, then we get to create our session. So we're going to define when we want it to expire through a new date. We're going to make this session option or session object, which is going to be encrypted, and it takes the user and the time that it expires. And then we set this as a cookie. So Next.js has this cookies function that allows you to set and delete cookies. So we set this with the name of session. We pass along the session. We say when it expires, and critically we say this is an HTTP only cookie. So you can only read this on the server. Now we skipped over this encryption part, but this is really important. So if we go up to encrypt, you'll see that we're doing a couple things here. This is an asynchronous function. It takes in the payload for our JWT or JSON Web Token, and we're going to call this function from this library here, Jose, who is going to allow us to sign the JWT based on the payload and the algorithm that we want, when it was issued, when we want it to expire at, and then the secret key that we're going to use for that encryption. Now here I just defined it up top. In your application, you probably want this to be an environment variable or something that people wouldn't have access to. So definitely don't want this value to get exposed. So we take this. This is what's actually going to encrypt that JWT. So let's take a look at what that looks like. In my browser, I'm going to open up DevTools, and I'm going to reload the page. There's no session right now because it had expired. So I'll do lee@vercel.com. I'll hit login, and we set this session key here. So let's take this value, this encrypted JWT, and let's pop on over to jwt.io. So I pasted this in here, and we see on the right, it determines what the algorithm was. It shows the payload of the data, and it says, hey, if you want to verify the signature, you need to put in that secret bit. So this is just a nice way of being able to kind of visualize that data. Just a couple little tips. So the session is stored as a cookie. Here, and we said it expired in 10 seconds. So when I reload the page, it's expired. That cookie is no longer there. It's done. If I log in again, lee@vercel.com, and I reload, what you're going to notice is that the value of expires is getting updated every single time, and you would also see that reflected in the decrypted value of the JWT that we're storing. So how is this happening, and why are we doing this? Well, if we pop back over to our application code and we look at the middleware file, this file is going to run in front of every request in our application, and it's calling this function. It's taking in the web request, and it's calling update session with that web request. So let's pop back into our authentication file, where we've been kind of building our own auth library, and we have update session. So takes in that request. Next request is just an extension of the web request. Takes in that request, it looks at the cookies. If there's no session cookie provided, you can just return back. Otherwise, refresh that session so it doesn't expire. So we decrypt that value from the session, we set a new expiration time, we tell Next response that we're going to produce a response, a web response from this, and then on that response, we set a new cookie. Now, the bit that we skipped over here was the decrypt function, so let's go take a look at that. Decrypt takes in this input. It uses Jose as well too to verify based on the input, based on the key, based on the algorithm that we encrypted it with. If this is legit, we're going to decrypt it and return back the payload. So that happened down here, where we got back the value from decrypt, and then we were able to update the cookie. To round out our auth implementation, we need to read information about the request. So we talked about this get session function when we first looked at the page, but what exactly was this doing? Well, really, it's just reading from the cookies. So we already showed how we were setting the JWT as a cookie for a session. All this function is doing is just reading from the cookies, looking for that session value, and then decrypting the value. So that's how inside of here, again, if I go back to the browser, I do lee@vercel.com. This could look at my database or something. That's how this get session function is able to get back information about this. If I go back to the function, when we first looked at the page, but what exactly was this doing? Well, really, it's just reading from the cookies. So we already showed how we were setting the JWT as a cookie for a session. All this function is doing is just reading from the cookies, looking for that session value, and then decrypting the value. So that's how inside of here, again, if I go back to the browser, I do lee@vercel.com. This could look at my database or something. That's how this get session function is able to get back information about the session. Now, if I click log out with the server action, what's going to happen, if you watch my console over on the right side, you see that the cookie was deleted. So it was removed out of my cookies. And if we click into the logout function, all this was doing was calling the Next.js cookies function, and it was essentially destroying the session. So this file is really all it takes for the most minimal session-based authentication inside a Next.js application. You're reading your values inside of your page. You are using a middleware to refresh that information. And it, of course, can get way more detailed than this, but I think it's helpful to step from just a really basic example. We can add complexity on top from there. Now I want to show what an abstraction on this model looks like. So the basic model I showed is effectively a very light version of Next.auth, or Auth.js, which is a popular community library. And I want to walk through another example that uses the same setup, but using Next.auth. So I've got that example open here on the left, and I've got it running in my browser on the right. And we're going to see a lot of similar things, just one layer of abstraction higher. So I have this auth file, auth.ts. It's going to set up some sign in, sign out, auth methods, and also some route handlers for our application. And it's going to say that we're using the GitHub provider for OAuth. Those route handlers are under API/auth/.nextauth. So the sketch all route that is going to scaffold a bunch of those route handlers for us for the library to use. So we take the Git and post from that central auth setup, and we scaffold out these routes. And then back in auth, we don't really have to do anything else to get this working with GitHub. But since this is, again, a layer of abstraction higher, this works with a bunch of different auth providers. It can be GitHub, Google, Discord, really any provider you want to use. So let's go look at the index route in the page. So for a page, we are calling await auth, which is basically similar to getting the session. This was the value that was exported from our auth file. From the session, we get the user an email, and then we render out this information below. So if I click sign in with GitHub, I've already configured it authenticated to say, yes, I authorize GitHub, so it skipped to the modal. But I say, okay, welcome, my email address here. I can click sign out. And when I look at these other components, they're very similar. They're forms that have a server action. They call a sign in function or a sign out function. The sign in one takes in a string, which is the provider that I'm using, in this instance GitHub, and sign out just deletes the session basically. So for example, if I open up the cookies, this is for 3001 localhost running on a different port. Making this a bit bigger, we can see there were 3 cookies created. There's the session token, which is that encrypted JWT. There's the callback URL, and then there's also a CSRF token for increased security. So this is all abstracted away for us. We don't need to do anything here. Just like in the previous example, there's a middleware so that the session can be refreshed when you reload the page. This one also includes a config option with a regex for what routes we want this to run on. So it's not going to run the middleware on static files or next image or on the favicon. So that's probably good to also include as well too. It's worth noting that depending on what time you're watching this video, these changes might already be stable. I'm using the latest beta version of the Next.js package that's been totally refactored for the app router to really simplify things. So the code for this is down below if you want to get started on this version. It might already be stable by the time you watch it though, so just wanted to quickly mention that too. The topic of authentication goes super deep. There's not only authentication, there's also authorization. So we cover some of this in our new docs. We talk a little bit about authorization and protecting server actions, protecting route handlers. In this video we talked about cookie-based sessions, but there's also database sessions, and there's really a ton of stuff here. We also include a bunch of examples with other popular authentication libraries.
Okay, I'm a bit confused. Do it okay. Okay, so we'll look this one in future. Let's start with the project. I did this. Let's see. Typing help option to get started. With that one. This is nice. Hello everyone. Yep, this is what I was looking for.
Airplane is a developer platform for quickly building rich internal tools for your team. With Airplane, you can create internal admin dashboards, scripts with an interface, automated cron jobs, and multi-step human-in-the-loop workflows. Everything in Airplane can be specified in code. You can use version control, code review, and automatic deployment like you would with normal code. Airplane also includes powerful safety features such as role-based access controls, grant flows, and auditing. In this video, we'll walk through creating an order management dashboard for a fictional company, the Northwind Traders. Airplane makes it really easy to build the logic and UI for these tools, all through simple but extensible code. First, we'll create some tasks. Tasks are the basic building blocks of Airplane. A task is a single business operation, like list customers, or issue refund, or update users' email. Airplane supports various ways of creating tasks, including writing a simple SQL query, fully custom JavaScript or Python, or even bringing your own Docker image. First, we'll create a SQL task that can take in customer IDs and show orders for that customer. To create this task, Airplane is a developer platform for quickly building rich internal. Once deployed, we can specify that should be written in SQL. This creates a SQL file. First, we'll create a SQL task that can take in customer IDs and show orders for that customer. To create this task, we'll use the Airplane CLI. We'll run Airplane tasks init, where we're prompted for details about this task. Let's call this task list orders for customer and specify that should be written in SQL. This creates a SQL file for the query and a YAML file where we can specify configuration. Let's first write our SQL query. This SQL query is a simple select query that selects from our orders table and filters by a customer query arg. Switching over to our YAML file, let's paste in the configuration. You'll notice how we specify query args at line 10. We have a query arg of customer set to the customer ID parameter. We'll go ahead and create a few more tasks to list customers, send orders ship date, and
Hello everyone. Oh, okay. Where it is added. Okay, so we go. I have this input. Why it is not rendering? Okay, so server is closed. Okay. Let's spread this one. Indicate work. Yep. So what I will do is in the layout one, I will add a background color to this one. Oh, okay, so I guess we can create a module. Okay, so will it come with class name? Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just testing out. Let's see what Google gives. Okay, so I will change this to container. What? Or a dash containers, as it is a class. Style start container. Will this work? Yep, it worked. Nice. Okay, so it is not taking. Well, let me put this min width. Actually, min height. Nope, nope, nope. Let me give this that. Okay, so yep, that is working. Okay, so this will be 0 or maybe some light version. This is too light. Yep, so 4a, let's see. We'll try to change the opacity. For a to d1, yep, d1. This is actually looking fine, and we'll put text color to yo. What's up? Hello, buddy. Welcome to the stream. Yep, I'm learning Next.js. Like I read all the documentation part first, then I'm like trying to build a simple to do app, and then in this only I will integrate the backend stuff too. Not auth app, like I'm trying to learn it, and that will also contain auth application. Like I have a like multi-role to-do application in my mind. Like it will have all the three roles, admin, manager, and members. So that I have planned in my previous stream. Hello, buddy. Welcome to the stream. So like I previously I was like thinking of doing it that on React on Stack. Later I switched to Postgres. Then I'm not like thinking of using Next.js. What are you working on? I'm for now learning Next.js, like, and like creating some to-do application to explore this stuff. And for UI one, I am using Shared CN. Yep, buddy. Do you have a GitHub repo for this project? No, I don't have any repo for this one. You can find my GitHub personal GitHub ID in the description. Mm, I don't know why I'm doing this. If I have tailwind here, this will be a flex. Let me put a background color on. Okay. Yep. So this will be width of full, height will be also full. Yep. Item center, justify center, justify center. Yep. And we'll have another div inside this one. Should I create a component folder? What is your opinion on Linux? So I used to like I used Kali Linux for 1 year, like previous like in my final year, and the second year my main desktop was on Kali Linux. I'm pretty good in that stuff, and you should also try actually. It will increase your like speed, and like in Kali Linux I used to use NeoVim, like it's similar to like Vim plus Git, like a VS Code. So I used to code in that one. If you are new, you can try Ubuntu for now. Like I used to learn like ethical hacking, so I was like much more like interested in that stuff. If I create a component folder, because I have a component folder here. components. Should I create a custom component? Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Oh yes, I use Astronaut and Debian on multiple machines. I have also used UVM. I'm just wondering why you are using Windows, as I have seen you have made some post about Linux. Yep, this is my new setup, so I'm not like I will most like in my other desktop it is like a Kali Linux setup, so like I have used the Windows for the easy use. And for job also, like it is difficult to handle like in Linux stuff. Like it's good for development, but for this all stuff like editing, recording and all those stuffs I use Windows only. Previously like I used to work on Linux only, but now I'm like switched to Windows. But I use like Linux using WSL. But what I do is like wait, I will show you. I have an alias setup, so that alias will directly move my terminal to the directory. Here I have everything, so I used to do this before. I see, very cool. Yep, thank you. So I have one question. Okay, so I want to create a folder like component folder or pages component folder only. So in that one I will create a div. So if that will affect like pagination or what? Not pagination, actually routing. Or where should I create that folder? Like I created this one to avoid that routing stuff and for grouping. So should I create inside this one? Yep, I should. Let me try. Components, and here I will create I should okay, so for now I will do that stuff in here only. So one I will have a title, then I will have a input field, list of to-dos. Normally you put the component directly in the root of the Next.js project. Okay, but I have one here like components. I'm using shared cn, so it created one. Okay, so I can put that stuff in this directory too. Yep. Yep, thank you, buddy. Let's see. With that Next.js, I'm also exploring this one shared cn. Because they don't have any box or something like that. In my previous project I used MUI, so that has all the box, typography and all the stuff. I was searching that only here. Not an issue. Instead of this one. Hey, hello buddy. Hey, stranger says welcome to the stream. Long time. Fine buddy, what about you? So you are using Tailwind. Whenever you put this. Okay, so let me. Tailwind when you put the CSS thing in the class. Yep buddy, yep. So this is the Tailwind stuff. So this is for border like border width, border size 2. Then this is the maximum width of 50%. This is for border radius. This is for padding, top, left, right, bottom. And this is for background color black, and I want 20% of it, like it is 20% of black. I don't want actually that border. One border will work. Yep. We will remove this and add a box shadow actually. Shadow. They have a box shadow. Okay, so we'll do that. Explore that in future. Let me start with the title. Should I have to install this or? It will be start telling only. Okay, instead of this, I will have to. So to store the data, you are using a database set. That I'm thinking of adding. So for now, I will use a local storage or cookie in this part one for the like basic usage. Then I will start with that authentic like database stuff. Then also add that authentication in this one. So like it is a simple, you can say full stack application to do full stack. Like I have not in my mind of what to do with this one. Like I'm still thinking how I can like learn and create some stuff. Okay, yep, buddy. If you have any idea, you can let me know. So you are also developer. Uh, Sorry, what I'm asking. You are okay. So you are a student or you are working professional. Right. Okay. Thank you, buddy. Mhm. This is nice. You will increase the width of height of this one. You will add a placeholder. Will take from props only. and to do this. This is actually looking simple and fine. We'll add a pizza here. And now about listing to do. So let me write it down. So each to do will have date, then to do, and the status. Yep, our status will be done. That is 0, that is not done, and 1, that is done. There will be a string, and it will also be a string. So let me define a string type. Should I replicate this one only? Let me see if they have something I can use. Not. I can use select for the state. I can use date because the box is nice. Once they added this one. Actually, this is a library. I have used this in my previous project. Let's switch animation. Okay, so I can use switch for completed and not completed. And okay, so let me design this stuff. Let's take it to another level. I will have a to do, then we'll have a date and a state. Okay, so should I add this all in one line? It makes sense. The UI will affect. This is switch and this is check picture. Yep, not an issue. I will put that below this one. Okay, so they have keep it only, I guess. Hmm. Hello everyone. Hello buddy. Welcome to the stream. Are you working on a project? Yep, I'm learning Next.js. So I'm creating a simple project using Next.js. Can you explain in short what the project is? So this is just a simple to do application. I will store to do in cookie or local storage for now, and in the second part I will integrate this with the Postgres database. Like I'm learning this Next.js. Like I have another like I was previously deciding that I will be using one stack for like my multi-role to-do application that I have discussed in my previous streams. But I thought of trying new technologies, so I'm learning Next.js and will try to like implement that stuff in this like this framework. Like I usually create projects in one stack, so I'm like exploring new things. We have more. So are you a student or working? I'm a working, not a professional. I, I do a job. So I need to make this use client so that I can use it. Can you give me your social? You can find that in my description. I don't use Instagram and this stuff. Yep, you can find that in my description. Should I remove this state stuff or what? Like, it's taking so much time. So I have removed that. That was taking a lot of time. Okay, so to do will have don't will not have a date for now. It will have a button, that is checkbox button or a switch, and that will come at the step only, not at the adding time. Okay, so I will have a state. This state will be a array of this to do. Will be a to do's. Let me start with the UI part. Okay, and individual to do will be a div with a h3 theorem of 10. Yep. And a switch. Okay, so I have to install that one. Okay. Unchecked will be flag of 70 and checked will be gray of 98p. 90. So unchecked will be 30. Actually, there is no much difference between this one. What I will do is use gray and 900 and then we'll give 30 or 80 or maybe 90 or maybe 100. Yep, this is fine. This is looking fine actually. Yep, this is nice. Or this is nice. Yep, this is fine. And now if I add multiple ones, and this will appear. We will add a gap of 2 between each by doing and gap of 2 where should I? Here. Flex fall gap of 2 or maybe 3. Justify content. Simple width of 100%. Justify between, okay. I don't have this stuff also. I guess this is wrong. Okay, so we'll end the stream in your like in some time. Because I'm not having that stuff, so that's why this is like this one I used to do. Let's see. Nice. Type to do undefined is not an array type. Mm, mm, mhm. It can be the issue. Let me see. Then why it is giving this error? On tick is also giving it, right? Text prop. Okay, so this is a fetch. Okay. Let me check what other things which has checked. True. It's coming from. Once I again. Let me check. Hello everyone. Okay, so this should be an alternative like this, but it is an different. That should not create any issue. But where I am putting the object. Okay, so to do dot to do, or should I name this one as something else? Are you storing to dos in an object? Yep, buddy, it is an list. It is list of objects. I guess issues with naming convention or something like that. Again, there is a name conflict. Yes, that's the issue. Try arrays with the keys. Oh, okay. Let me put the key as index. Then again I got the issue. Actually that is not an issue, but maybe causing the issue. Let me check. Okay, so what you are saying? Store to dos in an array. So this is an array, no? Array or list, I guess, no? Let's see. Oh, okay, shit. I forgot. This will be an event actually. I mean, like, issue is this one, like, when I add this, on click add to do, and I'm not storing the input value actually. I'm in sleep. By the way, thank you for the help. Means a lot. It is just storing the event, like this click event, not actual value. What should I do is, should I create an event or a ref? I will use a ref only. Let me try this. So I close the terminal. Also, where this zero is coming from. Not in a mood to spend time on. So what I will do, it is now this should work, but okay, so this will be and this is to if it is 0 then why? Because it is boolean actually. If it is 1 then true, or it is false. False. Project is taking place actually. Why it is even installed? Let's see. Hello everyone. I have one video to watch of. I'll show you. Let's see. Should I store this in local storage? Because I will also add a delete feature. If it will be like this, it will come here. Let me check if I have something. Not radio clip. Batch. Oh, nice.
it's India's slimmest smartphone of 2024. You know, after seeing this, I'm convinced that the Zeiss-style portraits on the Vivo V30 Pro is
Hey there everyone, Hitesh here, back again with another video, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about the PlanetScale's rug pull that they just pulled off. And before we actually talk about what happened at the PlanetScale, how we should react to it, let me share a little bit of the history that I personally faced during the similar situation which has happened in the past. And why does it matter really that we should raise our opinion, or at least a voice about exactly what is happening right now? Now, this video is not intended for the purpose of putting a hate on the PlanetScale. No, it's not like that. They are also a business. They need to run their business for the profitability, and that's acceptable. Everybody understand that part. I understand that very deeply. In this video, I would like to walk you through with some of the situations and scenarios about the products when they are designed for software developers, especially the programmers. First of all, this is very clear that you cannot easily design a product which is going to be used by hundreds and thousands and millions of developers. This is not an easy task to do. Developers doesn't just walk in randomly and start using your product. You need to provide a support to the community. That's how the developer community thrives into every situation and every market. We love the community support first. If it is for the community, we will adopt it. If it is not for the community, the chances are very high that you will not be accepted as easily as the community products are being accepted. And we developers don't really mind that when you try to make a business out of it. Of course, it's a right for everyone and you should be able to do that. But not at the cost when you are sabotaging the entire developer community and the trust that we have shown to you. Let me share a couple of examples where this trust was again and again was broken, and I think this happened again this time. Let me share the screen with you with a couple of examples that I personally faced. Now this is AWS Cloud9. Now in case you don't know, Cloud9 was a standalone product. I loved this product. And honestly, I did market it quite well. I never got paid for it. I never got to talk to them even. And I had no idea who they are. I just loved the product that I advocated it so much in the entire students community. It made sense. All I had to do is sign up on their website and then I can start writing the code. I can install MySQL, I can just run everything. And I was teaching a bootcamp on Node.js where we were building an entire application using Node.js and MySQL, and everything was so easy. I totally understand that it is really painful thing when students have to install these things and have to work through their focus is majorly on the installation part, not on the code part. And AWS Cloud9, at that point of time, it was known as Cloud9. It helped me to actually overcome the burden of installation. Nowadays, installation is much more simpler, all thanks to Docker and so much more. But it helped me in bringing up the platform up and running so fast. And I was able to teach my students about MySQL and Node.js. But the problem was that just the moment I finished up my live bootcamp and the video recordings were made, there was an announcement that Cloud9 is getting acquired by AWS. The moment they got acquired, they shut down the free plan. And I was not mad at them, but I thought that it could be really better if you could have left even a small tiny machine of 512 MB RAM or something similar just for open for students at least so that they can learn. If the student today are going to learn from your product, eventually these students will become CTOs and the team leads of the future team, and they will recommend your product because they're already very comfortable with you. So this is just one scenario, and I still love the product, but now it's sadly not free as a product. Now let me walk you through what happens when you design a software for a developer community. A lot of companies does this. For example, there's a very famous company, everybody know this company, known as MongoDB. And MongoDB has a product known as Atlas. I think everybody is aware of it. And not only just me, almost every single developer who make developer tutorials, coding tutorials, they promote them like anything. None of them is getting paid for it. We just genuinely love the product. Nobody is paying from the MongoDB team to any single YouTuber, but we just love the product. That's why we teach why the Atlas in all of the tutorials that we make. Not only just me, a lot of others do that. If the product is really nice, these YouTubers doesn't really shy away from promoting this and helping the community to get on board and started with that. Atlas is one such product. And the reason for that is it's free. Not all free, but there is enough of
sometimes I also do like promotion of code with Harry because like you can fully share like I have learned all the stuff from him like React, Express, Python, JavaScript, HTML, CSS and everything, like really.
in this free tier that I can start teaching on it, and there are students who can follow along with that same free account without worrying about the money part. If tomorrow Atlas shut down their free tier plan, I wouldn't be happy. A lot of other YouTubers wouldn't be happy, just simply because, not because we cannot install MongoDB, we can make tutorials on Docker and installing MongoDB on our own, but this actually is a gateway to your product. So many people I know and I have personally taught are using MongoDB's paid plan, and the reason behind that is just because they got started on MongoDB, they like the developer experience, and now it's time to scale. They're scaling on the MongoDB itself. And I think it makes a great business decision that you got started with the free tier, asked your community to, hey, let's try our product, and they tried your product, they loved it, and they continue to love it because you offered a generous free tier. You are taking advantage in the business tier, that's great, and we are taking advantage of teaching people with this and putting up our hobby projects on this one. I love that criteria. And there's another one company known as PlanetScale, which was loved by community. I'm pretty sure it still is being loved by community. But I'm not sure what the future is going to be when you make this kind of a plan change. Let's just go ahead and read this entire article and see what's happening on this side of the PlanetScale. So first of all, the article headline, it says PlanetScale forever. You tell me in the comment section and judge it that whether this headline makes sense or not. PlanetScale is committed to providing a reliable and sustainable platform for our customers, not just ensure that whether this headline makes sense or not. PlanetScale is committed to providing a reliable and sustainable platform for our customers, not just in short term but forever. For this reason, we are prioritizing profitability. It's good that you prioritize your profitability. But there was a point when you didn't have the budget of marketing at the scale that all the YouTubers did for you. Everybody who loved you were actually got started just by putting up their hobby projects. And a lot of YouTubers did your marketing, some for paid of course, some for free, just because you were offering free, not prioritizing profitability at the cost of marketing at that time. Probably I'm too harsh, but let's just go ahead and read what's happening. PlanetScale is an infrastructure company. Our service is mission critical and we value reliable above all else. Alright, reliability isn't just an uptime percentage on your status page. It means your business is self-sustaining. I agree that. Every unprofitable company has a date in the future where it could disappear. I agree on that part. You cannot survive for long if you're not making a profitable business. goodness. With an ever-changing world and economy, this is the situation fraught with risk. We choose to build a company that can last forever. That is why that's interesting, that is why I have made a decision to prioritize profitability for PlanetScale. I guess this is written by CEO. Yep, CEO of PlanetScale. I like that tone. Taking full accountability there. Moving further. As of now, PlanetScale can project profitability after the following key decision. To part away with members of our team, alright, so there's a layoff, primarily sales and marketing, and sunsetting our hobby plan. Oh goodness. I would like to express my extreme gratitude for the people are parting ways with today. Okay, so I hope there was at least an email. Our hobby plan will retire on April 8th. Okay, that's really nearby. You can find more information about the planned applications such as exporting your data or upgrading in our hobby plan FAQ documentation. I understand completely that retiring our free tier will cause inconvenience to some users. Inconvenience, a lot of people are going to feel betrayal for that. I hope people understand that we take mission incredibly seriously and this decision was not made lightly. I'm not sure how this decision was made, but I'm pretty sure that whoever you were consulting for this one was not developer. First of all, doesn't understand the developer community and how they will react to it and what implications this is going to cause for a future run. But yeah, no problem there. If this puts out a difficult situation, please email support in PlanetScale. Now the reason why this is going to put up a lot of heat is because if you check out for their hobby documentation plan, the plan that you have to migrate and upgrade, let's go ahead and check out the pricing. So now this is going to cost you at least $39 per month of a plan. If that would be something like $5, $10, at least a minimum plan for free tier for some amount of users, a really low scale of the memory and the storage, but hey, you just went directly to $39 per month. That's not easy for developers who are just getting started. Here's the interesting part. PlanetScale is the main database for companies totaling more than $50 billion market cap. I'm pretty sure you're charging a lot to these companies, and I'm pretty sure there could be enough of planning that could be done that you could have left at least one free tier for the people to try this out at least, to check out. I love the product, by the way. There is no harm in the PlanetScale. It's a good product. We loved it. We have taught it in the boot camps, and students have loved this. But hey, whether you count calories, paid for your morning coffee, sent to what message, brought a new pair, it's almost certain that we have interacted with the technology today. Okay, PlanetScale, Deloitte, and all of that. I think there's no need to read this. But what's interesting is to read a couple of more things onto this one. Let me share a couple of more interesting stuff with you. First of all, a couple of tweets, which I think we all should read. There's interesting ones here. The PlanetScale situation is really kind of a bummer for me. A lot of other people too, exactly same. I do not have experience or expertise to comment on the business reasons, industry side of the things, just how it feels from a user's perspective. Killing the free tier really puts it in a tough spot for me. I see Theo talk a lot about the ideas of young devs who care a lot about becoming advocates for software and bringing them to their orgs, and I literally did that with the PlanetScale. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We have taught so many technologies to the people and the young generation that these generations are now already moving into big tech roles in the team leads, in the software developers, senior software developers, and even CTOs. And they are bringing a lot of these softwares that they are loving it. Nobody chooses MongoDB or PlanetScale as a service just because they have evaluated it properly. There's always some biasness which you have got through the experience or through the tutorials, through the YouTubers. And this is actually a really tough spot. There are at least probably more at this point 3 products in production from the agency I worked at last year because I came in and wanted to use it. And it went really well. All of these are paying, so the ROI for my free DB is at least 3 scaling real customer, which to me feels really bad to effectively cut that off.
It's India's slimmest smartphone of 2024. You know, after seeing this, I'm convinced that the Zeiss style portraits on the Vivo V30.
Another big reason I'm bummed up is that I genuinely think PlanetScale is the best database out there and I really want to recommend it to people, but $40 is a lot. This is exactly my point. You could have slashed down the resources, could have offered us something, maybe reduced down a little of more features, but $40 is a lot. It's a lot. You cannot put your hobby plans on that. I'm not an advocate of saying, hey, give me everything for free, but all I'm advocating is for the beginners who are just getting started, who are trying to taste the things, how it looks like, does it feel good for me or not. There should be a free tier to test the product. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying give me all of this for free. No, that's not the intention. The branching, rollback, serverless drivers, scaling, unbelievable UI, schema recommendations. We all love that. That's the feature. That's why the PlanetScale got into the heated zone of the talking conversation of all the YouTubers. That is exactly why it has done. Alright, so devs who have fallen in love with all that stuff now are not going to be. For more of serious funded project, we're probably going to pay $40 and move on. Yes, of course, everybody's going to do that. And whatever we can afford it, but my new project, my new videos, I don't know, man. It's a tough sell at this point. Of course, I will also be looking forward twice, thrice, or probably more before pulling up a PlanetScale machine and asking all of my users on YouTube that, hey, let's just go ahead and get started with that. So PlanetScale will always have a special, and I'm not interested in the rest of the tweet, but it's a really nice tweet if you want to go ahead and read it on Ben Davis. There are a couple of others as well, directly from PlanetScale as well. One interesting one by Max is also here. Is it just me or is it one of the most call-less layout notices ever? Can't read. Just a brief mention of parting away with the team members, not even mention of helping them land job. This is how industry works. Anyways, so my point is that it's really a difficult point at this point to recommend PlanetScale to anybody, and a lot of people are already moving into different ones. Some are actually moving into AppWrite, some are moving into their own hosted databases. Wherever you are moving, it's your call, it's your decision. I'm nobody to tell you where you should go or what you should do. But all I'm saying is that, hey, free tiers for the developer community, because you build the entire thing around the community, I think the community deserve at least a basic free tier to test out the product so that beginners can actually start using your product. I think more people have loved MongoDB Atlas just because it was available for them for free. They could have already installed the MongoDB on their system and could have worked them and have shown the same love. But don't do this. Don't do this. This is not something that I appreciate. Anyways, this was all just a quick summary of giving you a
So thank you everyone for watching. We'll start we'll stream tomorrow is the Friday, so we'll probably take a break. We'll see you on Saturday. Bye bye. Thank you.